Hey, hey, you. Yes, you. Put down the breakfast burrito, because it's not the morning time when this episode is coming out. It's the evening time. Unless it's Brenner. Otherwise, give me the Brenner fucking burrito. We doing episode 6 of Cloak and Dagger Weekly, where it is season 2, episode 6, known as B-side, I believe. Let me just double check. Yes, it is B-sides. Plural. Why? Cause musical theory, involving how the original stuff for records and 8-tracks was about having you flip the physical media to play additional music that you purchased from your albums. But anyway, this is gonna be a joint episode because, as Shannon is about to say when she's done picking her jaw off the floor, there was no dual-sided narrative. It was all just one big thing from a very complex narrative that I have yet to see Kevin Feige ever fucking do. Where if I hear one of you motherfuckers try to say, oh, but what about WandaVision? What about it?
I don't want to have this conversation with you. And roll credits.
So, B-sides. I think the best way to put it is that Tandy's having her mind invaded by the season's antagonist, because he's trying to feast off of her despair. How does he feast off the despair? Well, let's go over all the scenarios. Shan, kick us off with the first one.
Okay, I gotta skip around my notes. Okay. So, in the last episode, I actually don't think I really talked about it too much, so I'll talk about it in this episode. Kind of a mixture between last episode and this episode. You heard Tandy have a speech about the Viper and the farmer scenario. Well, we kind of went back to that particular scene in the beginning of this episode where Tandy is like wearing like the white dress and she's like holding a glass of champagne and like they're obviously like celebrating. What they're celebrating? Ty joining the police department.
The New Orleans Police Department.
Yeah. So, if you could probably imagine, why the fuck would Ty join the police department? You know, when Connors shoots his brother. Good question. So, in this, I'm gonna say timeline, but you know, in this record, A side, B side, C side, I don't fucking know. First side. So, not only were they celebrating this, like, Ty's, like, little girlfriend was there, his parents were there, who else was there? Connor shows up, Ty's brother's there.
Dwayne's also there. If y'all don't remember Dwayne, he was Billy's friend who also went into furniture selling / illegal substance selling in season 1, who Connors shot and killed.
Yeah, that guy. And then also Tandy's father was there, which you could probably imagine they're dead. So, of course, Tandy kind of starts questioning things, like checking her surroundings, because obviously something isn't right. Like, Tandy is confused as to where the fuck she is and what the fuck is happening. Well, there's a moment where Tandy's mom starts dancing. Was it with Dwayne or was it with the brother?
It was with Dwayne.
Okay. So the mom basically asks him to have a dance with her because, you know, her husband don't dance and blah, blah. He obviously accepts and starts dancing with Tandy's mom when Tandy starts freaking out because she thinks that her father is going to start hitting her mom. So, of course, everyone around her is like, what the fuck are you going off on? Like, are you all right? To where she then goes outside, you know, like, take a deep breath and calm down. Ty meets her outside. And they decide to take a walk to the store, which looked like they were buying, you know, bags of ice. And they're having a good conversation about, like, she saved him, he saved her, she saved him. Having a really good conversation about saving each other. When they get down to the store to buy said ice, this random man comes up to Tandy and says, like, I don't know if anyone's told you this, but you're hot. So, so obviously she's like, ew, fuck you. And then the guy behind the counter was being, like a bitch because they were talking about how Tandy could do better than with him and blah, 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 blah. Being sickos. To then where the man behind the counter sees the gun on Ty's hip because, again, he's a police officer now, to where he thinks that they're about to rob them, which they're like, no, we just want to fucking buy ice, you freaks. He gave Tandy on the walk the police badge to, like, look at and stuff. Well, apparently she still had it on her. He said, I could prove it. I show you my badge to prove I'm a police officer, but of course Tandy had it. And then while she, like, starts kind of like, I don't want to know if you want to say, like, freaking out. It's like the way of wording it, but she's just kind of like about to freak out when the guy shoots, obviously missing Tandy and Ty. And then I look at my notes. Hold on.
They touch, and then an explosion.
Oh yeah, they
touch.
touch. Thank you. So yeah, their powers activate.
Which kind of implies that they never had a physical connection at all in this scenario of like, hey, my brother and your dad never died, and we never hugged, we never shook hands, we never had a secret handshake, and so our powers activate now. Which still goes off the whole thing of, what is y'all's relationship? Because it comes off more than friends in a lot of scenarios when you really look at Cloak and Dagger in most media.
Yeah. Oh, also, I don't know if it's really that important, but Tandy at this point is also like a big dancer in New York.
Which then we apparently have the metaphorical record flip to one of its many B-sides. Note how I'm saying multiple B-sides.
My notes say the white gloved man flips record. The B-side, oh my god.
Where in this B-side, instead of Tandy being a dancer, as pointed out by my baby sister, she is an engineer for Roxxon. Roxxon being more or less tied to, for many people now that are getting into the MCU, it is a chemical slash kinda sorta weapons manufacturer company spread throughout the entire Marvel universe. You probably would have heard about it in Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales if you were more of a gamer, or if you're an MCU person from Wonder Man, which then gets you back tied to Cloak and Dagger, meaning that the entire Marvel multiverse always talks about Roxxon in some capacity or another. Either way, so in this scenario, Tandy grew up where after Nathan is alive, he and his wife end up getting divorced and moves to Silicon Valley in California, but leaves Tandy with her mom to then try to make a living where she graduated top of her class and is flown out to an oil rig to potentially be there during the epicenter of a new explosion. Not the explosion that happened years prior, but apparently there's a new explosion set to happen now instead of in the original timeline that we know. So she flies out there, she's meeting a few familiar faces, but the key difference here is that Billy is once again alive, but he's also working on the oil rig as a rig worker, and has Tyrone there as another worker. Apparently also, Billy is an engineer because he rose up the ranks to become an engineer organically by working with the company. So we see some more familiar faces here and there, and we start hearing the hum that comes from the gloved man. Does he have an actual name? Well, he has a villain name, but to get into that as a spoiler for an upcoming episode, we're gonna get to later. But for right now, the hums begin and the sharp ringing starts to set in motion where the rig is set to explode, much like when the rig exploded when Tandy and Tyrone were 9 years old and were exposed to the elements from the Light Force and Dark Force that seeped through the waters of New Orleans. So from this whole thing, when they finally touch, in this scenario it makes more sense because they never met each other, but they just came together by circumstance. And from it, their powers activate to save Mina, one of her friends from the original timeline that is tied to a friend of her dad's and was in a coma because of the explosion. And now we're set in stone for all of this. To where we stop the record and then rewind it to flip to another B-side.
Real quick, I would just like to make a note that apparently during that timeline, Ty tells Tandy that he got the job from Billy. Why? I don't really know.
It's not important when you think about it.
Okay, so the next one for the next B-side is she is a person who is trying to get, like people's signatures. Was it to save birds?
The shorebirds.
And she runs into, a familiar face. Whose face? Liam. To where he is a nerd. I'll just say it, he's a nerd. Fucking weird ass nerd. Anyway. So they start talking about like them and like saving the birds and needs a signature and whatever. Meanwhile, his girlfriend, fiance, whatever the fuck her title is like trying to get him to leave, and he's like, "Well, no way, I want to hear her out and like save the birds and shit, because I'm a nerd." Um, in the process, as they leave, Tandy steals Liam's wallet. She runs away because, the cops and stuff are after her. When she hops into this person's car, whose car? Oh, no one important because it was being stolen by Ty himself.
This one's a little bit hard to talk about. So in this apparent potential timeline, Tyrone, a black man, is boosting cars. And no one thought, this might be problematic.
Yeah, so he was carjacking a car. She basically held a knife to him. He took her wherever, started driving. Then Ty started noticing that she's like picking her arm and stuff, probably because she got drugged in the back of an ambulance during one of the blip sequences that she was having. Oh yeah, we're in the back of an ambulance, by the way. To where he like starts questioning, like, you're withdrawing, like, did you need the money from the wallet to get your next fix, that kind of stuff. And all of a sudden, a bunch of sirens start going off. She's freaking out. She's hyperventilating. They almost run into a random masked man. There's really not much more to talk about that one.
Really, no. Which then goes into, well, much like what Shan was saying about the blip sequences, because we can talk about this now. Every time the B-sides end with Tandy being in contact with Tyrone, her powers activate in the real world, where her dagger is visible. But Leah, punk-ass bitch, decides to drug up Tandy, because she's a punk-ass bitch, and wants to sedate her long enough for the true villain, which I will have Shan say the name of, because I was not paying attention.
The guy?
Yeah.
Andre Duchesne.
Andre Duchesne, thank you. Who is someone else who got powers from the Roxxon explosion and has been the one kidnapping women. And as we found out in this episode, which I already knew prior to this from lots of rewatches and deep dives before even watching this on live TV, that his power is kind of like Cloak's, but he wants to feast on the despair of his enemies, which is why when certain women end up in the weird states that we've been seeing all season, that's because of Andre feasting on their despair. Because you kind of need that a little bit, that small little nugget within fear, to understand how to progress and overcome. If you don't have fear and despair, somehow you'll always end up at your most meek and most empty, which kind of makes you a great vassal to just do anything with, which is also an allegory for snatching up women from the streets and turning them into prostitutes for profit. AKA Andre is a drug peddling pimp as the allegory here. But Why am I talking about this right now? Because when we're removing the album that had one too many B-sides, we have a new album, The Jam Session, where it's all about deconstructing the scenarios to see what breaks Tandy if they just remove Tyrone. Each of the scenarios that we already saw prior playing in reverse. The shorebird situation, the rig situation, Ty's big day of being a police officer. But she still has her vigor, she still has her zeal, which for Andre is very unique, to where we find out about his villain origin story about how he had a lot of migraines and wanted to cancel his subscription to Life magazine on the day that the rig explosion happened, and when the energy seeped into the water, he was infected with the Dark Force. But unlike Tyrone, who has a healthy balance to his life, where he was meant for greater things, Andre, his agony and despair merged with the powers to feast on the negative emotions of it all, rather than what Ty went through. Big difference in how the powers manifest. And
So basically, Andre ain't shit.
he ain't shit worth a damn. So when Tandy's back in the record store that she saw when we were back in episode 4, we end up seeing her stab a dagger into that record. But something is different and weird that even Shannon, for the first time watching, was like, I don't think this is the end of this. I don't think this is right.
Yeah, something's definitely off here.
So let's get into the final scenario of the episode. Shan.
So basically, as you can imagine, with like the bleep sequences and stuff, Tandy wakes up in the back of this ambulance, which is where they basically kidnapped her and started drugging her and shit. She ends up setting herself free. She's got her daggers with her. And you get motioned, or you get told that she, like, escapes the ambulance, supposedly. She gets to the church, where obviously Ty's been staying for however long now, and tells him that Andre is behind all this. We need to stop him with the missing girls. To where they meet up with Bridget. She calls back up because Tandy ain't doing hot. She don't look good. Like, you know, as you can imagine, after being pepper sprayed in the eyes and potentially drugged up, you can imagine that that's pretty a rough day. So she calls her back up. Well, in the process of her talking to the cops, Tandy and Ty take off and they blip to where Andre is. And they, like, manage to, like, save Michaela, one of the missing girls from previous episodes. And while they're trying to put a stop to Andre, I don't remember the exact words that he mentioned, but she basically says that she is not alone, like she's got Ty, and he's like, okay, bet. And where things really started making sense for it not being real, he shoots Ty dies, to where you see a record that says Tandy without Tyrone, but Tyrone was crossed out and scribbled out, it looked like, which I thought was interesting. And after that, he basically tells her that she is nothing, and she is no longer anything without Tyrone. He is now gone. And what does she do but hands him the dagger? And you see Tandy over Tyrone's dead body, bleeding out, in a black room, to where we finally see that she is still in the back of the ambulance on the gurney, and to where Andre has discovered that Tyrone is her weakness.
And the episode ends with our location for where the girls have been located is a motel known as Viking. What does this mean? What is this going to entail? We will dive into that in the next episode. But overall, this was definitely an episode that showcases the high points in why Cloak and Dagger is so unique to what should have been an expanded universe for Marvel in the live action sphere. Although, granted, because of Wonder Man making it so Cloak and Dagger are canon, this does give out hope for fans that both Tandy and Tyrone's actors will come back to the Marvel grander universe for what Kevin wants to make the 616. It's never going to be 616, but I've already said my piece on that many, many times. And I don't know. It's more of a good point because from Daredevil Born Again, there is hope if you get the right showrunners to bring this series back. But I digress. For everything else about this episode itself, Shan, for this being your first time watching this, what are you thinking?
I am definitely intrigued to where this season's gonna end on because we've already had so many like stuff happening that like I feel like we should be coming to a conclusion soon. But then when I think it's coming, something else happens, and it's like another story. And as I kind of said shortly after this episode ended, I know we didn't get on recording. This episode was a lot for me to process, hence why my mouth was on the ground. I don't usually do well with time jumps, and I know before anyone says anything, no, this was not a time jump. But because of where she kept getting blipped between like locations and different scenarios, to me, my brain was triggering it like it was a time jump. Follow along. So that I basically didn't even. I don't think I said more than 2 words, and I'm just like focused like where do we go from here? I felt like I was a detective in Tandy's world, and I was trying to solve the murder. That's what I felt like. Have I been reading too much mystery thriller books? You be the judge. But no, I really enjoyed this episode. I had a lot of fun with it. I liked trying to piece together certain things, and I am intrigued to see what the fuck we're gonna do next.
Well, we definitely gonna be finding something out pretty soon, cause next episode is Viking Town Sound. This is, oh boy. Next episode is gonna be a doozy and a half because of all of the things that really get explored in this series really hit their strides in a huge way that I'm not sure that any of us are gonna feel comfortable about for a long time. But I digress. We will see you guys in that next episode. And I don't know, just don't trust people that just want you to appear where they have needles and like, hey, if you come to this location, candy. What the fuck you mean,